All right, back again. We're going to finish up, I think it's 11.3. So we stopped at this slide here. So I want to show you how to make some data displays in spreadsheets. So let's see how to make a histogram, right? A histogram, remember, is like a bar chart, but at the bottom you use intervals. So like here's 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15. Okay, so we're going to take this data set and we are going to, first step is to type the data into your sheet here. So I'm actually we are gonna change it to, we're gonna be working on this data set. Showed you the wrong slide here. So we have this data and we're gonna plot it in histogram, okay? So we're gonna come over here. I've typed the data here. And for a histogram, like I said, you need ranges. So I've decided to go by tens. So you can see I did 55 to 65 because that's my smallest data set here is 64, right? And my maximum is 120. So I'm gonna move this up because sometimes this is helpful. So you can find these in your calculator, right? But you can also find them in spreadsheets. So my median for that equation, you would literally just type median. And it's asking you where a median of what. So you highlight all of this. I want the median of that input for me. First quartile equals quartile, the nearest. First, I already forgot it. I just had it. Here it is. Quartile, yes. So what you do is you type in quartile. Oops. Type in quartile, and then you select all your data. And since you want the first quartile, you put comma 1. That tells it's the first quartile. Okay. Now, for the third quartile, again, I'm going to type in quartile. So there's my quartile. I select the data, but I want the third quartile, so I type comma 3. Minimum is just minimum. Min. You type in min. Highlight your data. Max, I type in max. Highlight data. All of these. I want you to find the maximum number. So now I have my 5 numbers. So I can easily make my box plot for my 5 number summary, but it also helps me build this if I want to create a histogram, because I know my smallest number is 64, so I'm going to have my lowest interval be here, and I know my maximum is 120, so I can have that be my highest interval. Okay, and so then because I'm going to start with making a histogram, I need to count how many are in each interval. So there's 1 data point there, there's 1 data point in this interval, there's 2 between 76 and 85. So you can manually count these, or you can see that I've used some formulas. So it's okay if you don't know these formulas. I'll just show them to you in case you want to pick them up. So there's this function called COUNTIF. So I said equals COUNTIF, and then I selected the data. What these dollar signs do is they tell it the data not to move, because then I can drag this down and it won't shift my data set down by 1. You really don't need them. You could just select it each time. So I'm telling it to count if, then I highlight this data, and then I put some quotation marks. If my data is less than or equal to 65, then it counts it 1. And so I couldn't figure out how to do when it's between 65 and 75. I was trying to Google it. This helps a lot. So the only way I could figure out how to accurately do it is I still select all this data, and I say less than or equal to 75, but then I subtract off the column before it. So I'm only going to count those. And then you can see what I did here was I selected all that data, said is it less than or equal to 85, and then I subtract off the other 2. Again, I don't care if you know how to do this. You can actually just count and type in a number. See, I was trying to figure out how to do it. So there it is. And then I want to make a histogram of this data. So I'm going to go insert, chart. There we are. So I want a column chart. Wow, did it already do it for me? So let me move this over here. Let me zoom back out a little bit. So I do want a column chart. It knew that. Great. I don't want any stacking. That would be like if I want a double chart or something. So my data range is D2 through E9. Yeah, so it's selecting all of this stuff. So let's see. D2 through E9 is here. So basically it's saying that I'm going to use this data. This is my X and this is my Y. Yeah, that's right. And so what's my X axis called? Ranges. I might want to call it, what is this data about? Doesn't say. So actually it's fine. Ranges and then the count, how many are in there. So if you can see it's saying, what is it called? It's called count. And you could say like, it's actually these, right? So the part that's important is that your series is your Y value. So this is my Y value. Changes, yes, and it matches, right? 55 to 65 is 1, 65 to 75. Oh, that's not right. This isn't 1, right? So I need to check this. Oops. So my ranges should actually be, let's try this, my thing does this a lot. It'll just close. So on a column chart, all right, there we go. For some reason now when I select count versus range, it works. So there's my data. So really when you're messing around with this, you want to make sure your x-axis, you're selecting your x bar, right? Like what you want your x-axis to be, so the ranges. And then for my y-axis, which is called series, you select the values you want to be your y. So I selected these numbers and then it plops them here. So there's my bar chart, okay? So now I have my bar chart quickly made. So the first question it asks is to describe the distribution. Well, actually, they ask us to make a box plot too, but we'll do that later. So describe the distribution. Well, it looks to me like it's skewed left, like there's a tail to the left, right? There's some low numbers here that may affect the mean. And we could figure that out as for a box plot too. So let's see if we can insert a box plot. I don't know if this has it. We might have to make it ourselves. Yeah, so for some reason, Excel does not have a box plot, right? But the great thing is for all right, so we have just figured out the how to make a bar chart for this. Now they want us to come up with the first quartile, median, third quartile, min, and max, and then make a box plot. Okay, so I have this data down here, which would quickly allow me to make a box plot, right? So if I take a picture of this stuff and we come over to see if I can find a blank Jamboard, we can quickly make this box plot. All right, so here's our blank Jamboard. Let's add in those numbers. And how would you make the box plot, right? Step one is to make a number line that makes sense. And then you're putting your 5 dots. So let's upload those numbers. So we have them on this screen here. So we know our box plot needs to go from $64 to $120. Okay, so maybe I'm going to have my number line go by tens from 60 to 120. All right. So there's 60 numbers in between that. So I'm just going to split it in half. So that's 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. All right, this is not perfect. I would redo this again, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to go through it, right? My numbers aren't spaced out. So my minimum is at 64. So I'm just going to label these. This is 90. This is going by 10. So my minimum is 64, so somewhere here maybe. My maximum is 120 here. My median is at 98, so close to this. My first quartile is at 81, so here. And my third quartile is at 113.5, so like this. So that this is where I make my box between quartile 1 and quartile 3. There's my median, and here are my two whiskers, as they call them. Okay, so why does this help me? Because I know that 50% of my data falls between each of the median and the endpoints, right? So in this, I am noticing right away that the largest interval is between the minimum and the median, right? But this is between 64 and 98 is much larger than between 98 and 120. So if I'm looking at this bigger interval, the bigger half or 50% of my data falls between the minimum and the median. So when I come back and look at this thing we looked at yesterday, right? That means that our data here, I want to show you the one we wrote on yesterday. Let me show you that. So that means that our data here is skewed left because this interval from the minimum to the median is the bigger section, the longer interval. So our data is skewed left, and that means our mean is also skewed left. Our mean is going to be less than our median, right? And this would be a box plot for the data. And you can also use your calculator to find the 5-number summary. And your classwork for today is here, which you're going to work on. Can be found on slide number, I posted right now it's slide 30. Hopefully it stays the same. You're going to assume that this is a data set that's based on interviewing a student sample of 10th graders. This is the number of hours they spend on homework per week. I want you to find the mean and standard deviation. You could use a spreadsheet, you can use your calculator, you can do it by hand. I want you to explain the range for which 95% of the data falls. You're going to find the 5-number summary from which any way you would like, and then you're going to make a box plot. You're going to describe the shape of the distribution, and you're going to, based on that, you're going to explain how the mean compares to the median. This is your classwork for today. When you're done, take a picture and turn it in. All right, I will see you guys next time.